want to welcome you all to the convention. I'm Beccaro, California Republican Party Chairman. I just want to do a couple of remarks and then be happy to answer your questions. I think it's the good news for all of you is that this is probably going to be the busiest presidential year that you've ever had in California politics, probably at least in the last 20 years or so. There's a couple of dynamics to it. Clearly, the presidential campaign is still up in the air, and it's all likelihood that we're going to have a split decision in Super Tuesday, and that means that California grows ever closer every day to being in play. It's been a long time since the California primary mattered this much, and I think it'll probably bring unprecedented fundraising, unprecedented number of appearances, and should be really exciting. But more than that, throughout the entire cycle, you're going to see something in California that hasn't been seen in a long time, and that is this. Normally, we're the ATM of the political world, and money tends to flow out of California to invest in the presidential cycle. But this time around, because of the enormous ballot measures that are going to be on the ballot in November, including stop special interests, a spending cap, and the like, you're going to see an enormous amount of money spent in California that might otherwise, like I said, go to other states. That we think will be helpful for California Republicans running for office because the ballot measures that we're backing are popular with the voters, and it will hurt the Obama presidency or re-election chances because that money will be staying here and it won't be available to help him in the swing states where he's going to need an awful lot of help. So California this year, much bigger forum than normal election years. The environment also is going to be beneficial for Republicans as well. As you know, our controller sent out a message not long ago that the state was running out of money, and that could be in the March time frame, maybe a little less or a little shorter than that, maybe a little longer. As we all know, the Democrats have the Assembly, the Senate, and the governorship, and they're not going to be able to point a finger at someone else and say, we ran out of money because it's someone else's fault. Regardless of what happened to any tax measures that were or were not on the ballot, the fact of the matter is they had the projections of how much money would be coming in. They had an obligation to pass a responsible budget that matched those forecasts. And if they run out of money, it's not going to be any one Republican's fault. It's going to be squarely on the people in charge. And that should send a signal to California voters on the issue of who's a good stewardship of their money. Also, as you know, recently the Republicans in the legislature threw the gauntlet down to the Democrats in the legislature on the issue of pension reform. Jerry Brown, for my liking, put forth a timid pension reform proposal. I would have liked a more dramatic proposal, but the Republicans have said, okay, let's see if the Democrats are willing to pass any reform whatsoever. And so far, there haven't been enough takers on the Democrat side. And so what we're going to see is whether California Democrats in the legislature are serious at all about pension reform. Because if they can't take this small step towards pension reform, that's going to be a huge signal to the voters of California that they are not serious about fiscal reform in the state. And I think it will be a huge black eye for them going into the November election, because they're going to run out of money in March, they're going to be against pension reform, they'll be against the spending cap, and voters will have the opportunity with these new district lines to vote for a different party to help take charge in Sacramento. Finally, I'm glad you're all here for this particular convention because it's sort of a pinnacle. It's been a year since I was elected chairman, or just about 11 months. I think at the outset I told you that I wanted to bring our party out of Sacramento and bring it to voters around the state. I said that we had a communication deficit, and what I meant by that is that we simply weren't speaking to enough voters throughout this state. And so we were going to get outside of Sacramento and do things where people live and talk to them in terms they understand. And so this convention is sort of the showcase for that effort. We not only have some exciting speakers coming, which we usually do. Of course, we have our congressional leaders coming tonight, along with the RNC co-chair, Sharon Day, who I'm very pleased to say is here. Tomorrow, of course, we have Newt Gingrich coming here. Newt Gingrich and friends, and I'm proud to say there's a 99.9% chance, did you get that? 999, that Herman Cain will be here tomorrow, along with Michael Reagan. So that should make it pretty exciting during the lunch hour. Beyond that, we have the RNC chair tomorrow night. Those are the normal things that go on at conventions, a host of speakers. What's really exciting for me is that we have a continuation of our town hall series, as you know, starting last March, I believe, or early April. We started this town hall series, which is my effort to bring the party to the voters as opposed to requesting the voters to follow us. We went into Riverside, we've gone into Fresno, we went into LA, and places where Republicans don't normally go, and just to have a direct communication with voters. Today is tomorrow will be our second Latino town hall with Univision, which helps us directly communicate with Latino voters around the state. We have our second Asian Summit or Asian Town Hall as well. This is a more updated format. And also we have a young voters town hall as well, talking about the economy. This is the sort of what I dedicated my chairmanship to, which is the party having direct communication, talking directly with voters around the state, and being in control of our own message, which of course this year will be on the fiscal issues. So I think it's going to be an exciting year for you. It's going to be an important year for the Republican Party to make a difference in this state. And I think that we've laid the groundwork for the party's recovery. It's going to take a while. We've laid some cornerstones. But I think over the next decade, the California Republican Party is going to be in great shape to demonstrate to voters why they should have a more balanced legislature, how Republicans would govern this state. And I think you'll find results in not only this fall, but in 2014, 2016, replacing Barbara Boxer and beyond. And with that, I'd be happy to take any questions.
Tom, you talked about how the Republican presidential primary in California could matter. It's going to be exciting, but your own rules shut out 20% of the voters, people who are not Democrats, and don't allow them to participate even at their own request in the primary. Is that something you think is really going to help you with independent voters in California?
Well, as you know, Tim, the delegates that get elected through that process go to the RNC and they decide on the rules for the Republican National Committee. And so we think it's reasonable to expect that the delegates chosen to decide the rules of the Republican Party for the country should be Republicans. But I think more to your question about how we connect with independents, I don't think it's change in procedures that is going to bring this party back. What's going to bring this party back is a direct message of practical solutions to their lives. Independents rise and fall on whether the major parties are providing solutions. And so rather than worrying about procedural rules, what our party needs to do is come up with common sense solutions and bring them to the voters. If we do that, we'll be fine in this state. But changing procedural rules isn't what's going to give us a good brand name or not.
You don't believe allowing them to participate in the process might excite them a little more?
Well, you asked, is it possible that could occur? Yes, but the biggest movements in sway of voters isn't on procedural changes or what happens in the primary. It's whether your candidates provide those practical solutions. That's what makes a difference.
Tom, can you talk about, you talked about going around the state and trying to connect with new kinds of people and new voters. How are you going to translate that from a conversation to getting them to register as Republicans and get out to vote? I mean, is there a ground game in terms of
Yes.
the money and registration?
Yeah, thank you for asking that question. we just got through the off-year cycle, which is laying the groundwork. Now, in the on-year, which is the election year, what a party needs to do is then connect its efforts to reach out and communicate with voters with specific issues that will excite them and demonstrate a difference between the parties. And that's where the fiscal issues come into play. The spending cap is wildly popular in California, polling as high as 78%. The Republican candidates, and this is quite frankly what we need as a permanent strategy for us, we need Republican candidates that run behind these popular ideas. If we do that and use issues to catch fire with voters, then you complement that with voter registration efforts and volunteer drives, and then you capitalize on some of these initiatives that I've been putting forward, which is this greater communication and connection with voters. It has to be all of those things at once. Sadly, Republicans in the past haven't integrated all of those things. So our opportunity to succeed going forward is marrying a popular idea, and there are many of them that Californian voters support the Republicans on, is marrying that popular idea with some of these more basic structural elements of how the party functions. And so a spending cap and something like that this year, and some of these initiatives I talked about, is how we're going to translate this into actual gains.
And are you on the ground right now spending money to register voters?
We have been for the better part of the last 7 months, and we've spent a considerable amount of money. And generally what happens is you do it more in targeted areas than broadly. As the presidential election comes into focus towards the end of the year, you have you paint with a broader brush, and voter registration drives tend to come together in a statewide effort. But through this past 6 months or so, we've been much more targeted.
If the redistricting referendum, find out today whether it qualifies. If it does, is the party going to fund the campaign on the November ballot, and where's the money going to come from?
Well, I never actually talked in advance on money strategy for the party. That doesn't seem to make good sense to me. But if it does passes, I think it'll be a great statement for grassroots efforts around the state. And what we're going to do is look at our resources, look at the issues in front of us like the spending cap, and over the next 6 months, we're going to make a decision on exactly how far we should push each individual thing we're facing, because there's stop special interest, there's a spending cap, and the way Republicans do business is we don't necessarily, we aggregate our volunteers to help on a variety of measures. Sort of like, look at it as when the party functions, we function in the sense of a door hanger. It's not that we do one thing at a time, it's that we coordinate activities. So the answer is, if it does make the ballot, big hats off to the grassroots efforts in this state. And then over the next 3, 4, 5 months, we'll be able to decide exactly how much to do in this direction.
Do the candidate races take precedence over that? I mean, how do you rank it? How do you rank it? There's a lot to spend on.
There is a lot to spend on. Overall, I would like to see us have a better mix of emphasis on candidates tied with initiatives that are popular. I think in the past, the Republican Party has emphasized electing people to office without tying that to popular ideas taking hold in the electorate. So my priority, and where I'd like to see the party go, and the entire Republican community, is to emphasize a popular initiative, spending cap, with candidate elections. All the Democrats are going to be against it. The vast majority of Republicans will be for it. And the referendum may or may not be tied into that effort, but the highest priority will be, the co-priorities will be something like a popular initiative like the spending cap and candidate elections. Those will be the highest priorities. Yes, sir.
Senator Steinberg says Democrats are about to get a supermajority and they're about to take away the last defense that the Republicans have against Democratic hegemony. So how are you going to turn that around? Do you think, what are the odds that that's going to happen?
What are the odds? Well, I don't think it's going to be a particularly good Democrat year. You have a president who says that we can't have a positive influence on economics. which is sad. But voters who have lived through 4 years of high unemployment, high deficits, and now, again, very high gas prices are going to look for someone with ideas, not someone who can do no more than throw his hands up and blame somebody else. So I don't think it's going to be a good year for the Democrats by and large. Now, the way the lines were drawn, this is no secret. Everybody knows that I thought that was, how shall I say, less than above board. It does present an enormous challenge for Republicans. But what we need to do to overcome that is the strategy I described before. We need to make this a statewide election on an idea that coalesces voters. And something like a spending cap or a stop special interest initiative is something that does that. If we attempt 172 different elections in this state, we will not do well, and no minority party ever would do well under those circumstances. So the way to combat the potential for what you just described, which is for the Democrats to take over a 2/3 majority and pass any tax cut or tax increase that they want, is to have a statewide election on a popular idea. If we do that this year, I think we have a better and even chance of holding the Senate above 1/3 for the Republicans.
How do you respond to the "can nobody here play this game" argument about redistricting? The Republicans really blew it, and there was a chance to defend your position, and you didn't.
Well, I'm not sure I know exactly what you're referring to when you said they had their chance, and what regard?
To influence the decisions of the redistricting commission.
Oh, I'm proud of the fact that the Republicans showed up throughout the state to these commission meetings, told people who they are, above board, and said, this is what we'd like you to do. I'm less impressed by Democratic operatives that didn't do the same, sort of hid their agenda. But that is yesterday, and I can't influence yesterday anymore in this process. The Republicans now need to move to a position where they're providing answers to people that they're convinced will help them in their future. And that's why something like the spending cap is very important. Keep in mind that the spending cap has broad appeal with local officials. Right now, they're getting their coffers raided on a consistent basis by the state, and they're not getting what they should out of property taxes. The spending cap stops the state from these ever-ending budget increases and gives a greater opportunity for local communities to hold on to tax dollars. And you just saw the report, what was it, yesterday or the day before, about $130 billion in local unfunded pension liability issues for cities. They need to hold on to their money. So this is something with a broad appeal that will give us the opportunity to stay above 1/3.
Somewhat on the same subject, 2 weeks ago, many of us were down in San Diego, and their theme there was Battleground California, pointing particularly to congressional districts and the hopes to pick up 4 to 6 seats. The congressional districts are tough for you, the new ones. Beyond trying to hold on to your incumbent, Denham, Tilbury, but I mean, how much further can you spread yourself? I mean, is that what the emphasis is going to be on, protecting your incumbents?
No, I think what I've described for you, Tim, is not looking backwards or operating in fear or trying to
That same
avoid.
strategy you just delineated, will that work also in federal campaign?
Absolutely, because if we drive out voters because we have a positive agenda to vote for something that they like, that will carry over up and down the ticket. The problem in the past is the Republicans have self-divided on issues and not run statewide themes. And if we run statewide themes, and obviously this, I don't control this 100% whether we do this or not, if we run on statewide themes, it makes it much easier. And there are enough issues out there over the years. Remember, they keep voting for our initiatives. We just haven't run enough candidates behind our popular initiatives, and that's what we need to change. And that will have a spillover effect, in addition to the fact that the best thing that comes out of this protracted presidential campaign season is that the Republicans have all of these ideas to fix things. And if you put them all in a hopper now, and our presidential candidate will, whoever that is, they're gonna contrast that with Barack Obama, who just told the whole world, I don't know what to do about oil prices. Well, okay, maybe you don't. But if that's above your pay grade, and apparently he's accepted that, then he needs to go get pay somewhere else. And that's gonna hurt the Democrats. People want answers, not guys who throw up their hands and say, I don't know what to do.
One more if I can follow up. You know, so much of what you said so far is anchored to this spending cap. So I assume you're pretty confident it's going to qualify.
I'm pretty confident that we're gonna do everything we can to get it on the ballot and have that opportunity, but there's also stop special interests. There's also the fact that we're putting out an alternative budget. There's also this pension reform idea that I think the Democrats are gonna, have trouble with.
Got one more question on the drive for the ballot for the spending cap.
Troy, I appreciate you've asked basically the same question twice in a row. Will I commit to saying how much dollars we're gonna do that? And you gotta remember that Republicans don't just write checks. We're the party of volunteerism. And I assure you that as that makes its way along, we are gonna put resources into doing that.
One more question here, and then he's got a live TV interview, but he'll be back in the room for as long as you guys need.
Hi, Will Trappman, Red Racing Horses. What can the party do to recruit good candidates like the kinds that you're talking about who are willing to maybe run in swing districts and put their names out there and take a risk in order to get behind these popular initiatives that you're talking about?
Well, the party there's two answers to your question, or two facets to the answer. There is, one, the party's got to be able to provide resources to these candidates. And we are starting these projects, candidate toolbox and other things, that we'll be providing many more resources than we ever have. That's one thing. So we need to be there, the party, the apparatus, to help them succeed. The other thing is we've got to create a better environment for people to want to run as Republicans. It's either over half the local elected officials, I believe, in the state are Republican. We got to start working closer with them, and the party has to be perceived as providing these solutions statewide instead of the party of no. That's why I was so pleased when Leader Conway, last time around, put out an alternative budget. I'm pleased that they're saying, let's see if they'll take the step in pension reforms. Parties become more attractive when they have positive agendas, and the fact that the Republicans are rolling out positive solutions is the key to that.
Thank you.
Leanne, did you want to, one more, I don't want to.
Sure, I just wanted to ask, you were talking so much about tying the spending cap and the fact that the presidential race is dragging on. Does it distract at all from the theme you're trying to project when they get into all the social issues and debating contraception? Does that cloud the field in terms of staying on message?
We're only in February. I think it's gonna calm down pretty quick, and you're gonna have Barack Obama saying, I don't know what to do. And then you're gonna have a presidential candidate saying, here's exactly what I need to do. So the 24-hour age and the internet is an impatient age. But we're gonna have 6 straight months, I believe, to tell the world that Barack Obama has thrown up his hands and doesn't know what to do about economics, can't understand supply and demand, and we're gonna have definitive plans that engage the American people. So why don't we have this discussion in 3 months in an hour or so, and I think we'll be just fine. I want to appreciate you all coming out, and we will see you this convention. It's going to be a lot of fun. I think there's going to be a ton of people tomorrow. We'll see you in the back of the room and with Newton, his parade. All right? Thank you.